AITAH for initiating a divorce while my wife is in the hospital after a car accident. Trigger warning, child endangerment, body injuries, car accidents, D. AITAH for telling my wife I don't give a damn how she drives when it's just her and her kids in the car, but if me or our kids are in it, she must be safe. March 25, 2024. My wife had 2 kids before we got married and they have an actively involved father. We have had 2 children of our own. My wife is a terrible driver, but she refuses to acknowledge this. She has been in multiple accidents and even had her license suspended. Not for a DUI or anything. Just because she is a shissa driver. She will do stuff like reach into the back seat to deal with a kid rather than either pull over or let me or one of the older kids deal with it. She got T-boned in August last year because she took her foot off the brake at a red light to pick up my son's soother that had fallen out. She didn't put the car in park. Thankfully only she was injured. All 4 kids were in the car. I have had it. I told her that she is welcome to endanger herself and her kids, but that if I am in the car or if our children are in the car, she will keep her eyes on the road and her hands on the steering wheel. She is finally at the point in her rehab where she can drive again. I reminded her of what I said. I told her that I loved her. I said that her older kids were important to me and that I loved them too. But I told her that if she ever decided to do stupid shit while driving, our relationship would be over and I would make it part of our divorce that she not be allowed to drive with my kids in the car. She started crying and said she didn't do it on purpose. I asked her how exactly she took her hands off the wheel, took off her seatbelt, took her foot off the brake, and turned around to pick up the soother by accident. She said that I'm treating her like an idiot. I don't think I am. My children have to be safe. Before you ask, I try and do as much of the driving as I possibly can. I have stopped drinking when we go out. I traded in my car that I loved for an SUV so there is room for all of us. I offered to pay for Uber so she didn't have to drive if I wasn't available. She actually likes driving. Her ex and her parents are on my side. He also told her that if she ever thinks about endangering his kids, and he would either go for full custody or ask that she be barred from driving with his kids in the car. Her parents have threatened to stop helping her pay her stupid high insurance premiums. She thinks we are being unfair because she loves her kids and would never intentionally harm them. She just loses concentration when one of the kids needs something and doesn't think to ask for help. AITAH for initiating a divorce while my wife is in the hospital after a car accident. May 14, 2024. My wife was involved in a single vehicle accident. She was seriously injured, but thank goodness no one else was in the car with her. I have spoken to her about her driving habits and I warned her. I went to see her in the hospital and then I went to a lawyer. I am also going for full custody with only supervised visitation. For her, I am sick to death of her driving habits and I will not wait for her to injure or kill one of our kids with her bullshit. I feel bad for doing this while she is in the hospital and facing charges, but I can't take any more chances on her. I feel terrible making this post about my ex-wife's driving. November 19, 2025. I don't know how to link to my old posts. Sorry, I will summarize. My ex must have had ADHD or something. She would be driving and then decide to look in the back seat or on the floor of the car instead of pulling over. She was badly hurt when she took off her seatbelt at a red light to get a soother that my kid had lost rather than pull over and park. I told her if she did it again I was going to divorce her and take custody. She was in physical rehab for a while. She then drove into a canal by the mall because she didn't put the car in park when she was getting paperwork from the back seat. After my ex drove her car into a canal, I was done. I knew she was going to get my kids injured or worse. Both me and her ex went for full custody of our kids, and part of the divorce settlement in my case was that she was not allowed to drive my children anywhere. Our divorce was rough and I still loved her. I just couldn't risk my kids. She got a dog. The dashcam her insurance forced her to get showed that the dog was making puke noises in the back seat. She turned around to look at what the dog was doing. She got hit by a semi when she drifted into oncoming traffic. My kids lost their mom. Their older siblings lost their mom. I lost a co-parent I still cared about. Her parents lost a daughter. I feel awful, but a few of you have asked for an update. I think I will be forgetting about this account forever now. I probably will not reply to questions. Just felt like the folks that helped me before might want closure. Relevant comments. Oop is lucky that he acted when he did and had the settlement say she wasn't allowed to drive the kids anywhere. Everyone, including the universe itself, was warning her about what was gonna happen. She just didn't listen. In 5 or 10 years, once the grief has dulled, he's going to be so incredibly thankful that he took action when he did. It's too fresh right now, but he knows deep down that he made the right decision. As heartbreaking as it was, his kids are still alive. That's a blessing designed by his own hand. The kids weren't in the car because they have dads that loved them and fought for them. I feel terrible for her parents.
Moving on to our next story.
My coworker is making our friend break up really weird. Trigger warnings, hostile workplace, harassment. Original post, April 15, 2025. I have a coworker who I was friends with outside of work for about a year. Due to various issues inside and outside of work, complaining about coworkers over Teams, asking the same basic questions over and over, not doing any bare minimum problem solving before asking for help, expecting a lot of emotional support while not providing it back, and just a lot of emotional immaturity. I ended our friendship last July with no possibility of being friends again. We're in the same department and have almost identical schedules, so we still have to interact every day. Our managers are aware we were friends and I had issues with him, though I protected him maybe more than I should have and didn't say anything about his complaining about coworkers. I had one issue with him right after ending the friendship, where he was monitoring my breaks and tried to confront me on Teams. I went to management about it and haven't had any other similar issues. He does still act really weird around me though. He won't make eye contact. He flinches when he sees me and doesn't expect to, or shrinks up when he walks past me, like he's expecting me to lash out, and will only talk to me over Teams, even to say thanks for helping him with something. He's asked another coworker how to get over his fear of another coworker. I've never threatened him or even raised my voice at him. Right before I ended the friendship, I snapped at him once and was irritable with him. But I've never been particularly mean, and since ending the friendship I've been professional, though not very warm. I assume he's scared that I'll try to get him fired, since I know he's particularly anxious about that, asking me for constant reassurance about any judgment, call, or small mistake was one of my big issues with him. I've just been kind of rolling my eyes internally at his behavior, but it's been months and it's getting old. His communication with me is pretty inefficient, but overall it doesn't hinder my work that much, and seemingly vice versa. I don't avoid any of my job duties that involve interacting with him. However, whenever something comes up in our work where he needs to be corrected, I don't feel like I can go to him directly. I don't supervise him, but I outrank him. And there are forms he sometimes has to fill out that go to me. When I was friends with him, if I asked him to communicate with me differently or set some kind of boundary, it would just make him more nervous and he would either avoid me or ask for more reassurance. I don't really think that asking him to act normal around me will help. Is there anything I can really do at this point? Or do I just have to accept this as part of the job now? Editor's note: for Allison's response to the original post, please refer to the link here. Update December 8, 2025. Nearly 8 months later, I have a major update to my previous letter. Last week, this co-worker Mr. Collins got fired. He had another extremely similar falling out with another female co-worker, let's call her Jane. In June, and even more women started comparing notes. Jane started working with us around the time that Mr. Collins and I fell out, and they struck up a friendship. So she and I had been avoiding each other because of Mr. Collins, until we were at a social event with Kitty and Elizabeth, other co-workers I'm friends with, who work in Jane's department. It came up that Kitty, Elizabeth, and I had all had problems with Mr. Collins. Jane shared that she just ended her friendship with him, in almost the same way that I did and for almost the same reasons. Elizabeth left shortly afterwards for unrelated reasons, but spoke with her supervisor before she left about Mr. Collins, naming me and Kitty as also having issues and expressing concern about his pattern of behavior. Once Jane and I talked about our experiences with Mr. Collins, we started talking to each other at work, which Mr. Collins took as a betrayal. He approached Jane a few weeks ago saying he felt hurt that she started talking to me, but also asked her if there was any way they could be friends again. She told him no. 2 days later, he approached me and said he'd been afraid of me for a year because he thought I was trying to get him fired, but realized we're professionals and wanted to know how we could move past this. I told him I wasn't trying to get him fired, and I was trying my best to be professional but keeping my distance because of the flinching. He asked how I wanted him to interact with me, and I said, like a coworker. It was like a switch flipped. He went from flinching when I walked past to sending me articles, trying to chit-chat over Teams, and using the phrase awesome sauce 3 times in one day. Meanwhile, he starts flinching when Jane walks past, greeting other coworkers by name while blatantly ignoring her, and asking me to take over tasks that would lead to him crossing paths with her. He'd also started asking me if it was okay to ask me things, usually things it was my job to help with. If he could ask me a question related to education he was doing for our field, I told him I'd rather keep things strictly work-related, and if it was okay to make jokes. This was the exact kind of thing that was frustrating and annoying to me a year ago, that led to me ending the friendship. I updated my supervisor and department head about the change in his behavior towards me, but increasingly realized that they would need to know the extent of the behavior. The weekend before last, Elizabeth texted me, Kitty, and a couple other coworkers we had a group chat with, that she'd asked Mr. Collins to stop texting her and not to ask us about her either. Another coworker in that group chat said she was going to tell her supervisor that Mr. Collins had made her uncomfortable. Between all these people, plus a couple more I was aware of, we were at a total of 7 women who he'd made uncomfortable or had overwhelmed, to one degree or another, on Tuesday. I emailed my supervisor and department head letting them know that another coworker, Jane, had been through almost the same exact thing I had, while leaving out her name and the exact details, and also letting them know that several other people had dealt with his overwhelming and exhausting behavior. I said I was concerned that he might fixate on someone else, that some of our young part-time employees would have to deal with him and not say anything, and that his behavior was inhibiting having a safe and comfortable work environment. My supervisor and department head had already looped in the head of the organization before I sent the email and passed the email on as well, and they let him go the next day. Our org head told me that in 30 years he'd never seen an employee correction situation quite like this, where the behavior is obnoxious, overwhelming, annoying, and affecting so many people. But technically the individual actions themselves are not inappropriate. Initially I felt a little bit guilty for getting him fired when I had told him that I wasn't doing that. But he really just had to face the consequences of his own actions. Mostly, it's been a relief and I'm no longer dreading coming to work worrying about how I'm supposed to deal with him. And I'm really glad I can finally start putting this nonsense behind me.
Moving on to our next story.
AITAH for refusing to pay to have my friend's house cleaned. I had to quickly come down to the city where I grew up due to the death of a close family member. It was a pretty spur-of-the-moment occurrence and I had to drop things rather quickly. I informed one of my friends and they offered to put me up for a few days. I said that would be great, but told them I'd have my dogs with me, so totally understood if they wouldn't be able to. The friend said it would be fine and they were more than happy to host me. For context, my dogs are not badly trained by any standard, but they are both large breed dogs, a lab and a GSD, so of course can be a bit much for many non-dog owners. I am aware of this and that's why I usually don't bring them to people's houses. I made the 5-hour drive down and my friend came out to greet me. When unpacking the car I let the dogs out and immediately they went off to toilet. Since it was a long trip, my lab went into the bushes to pee, but the GSD began to pee in the middle of the front porch. Don't ask me why, but she much prefers peeing on hard surfaces and my friend immediately freaked out. I was a bit confused and apologized, but it's outside so didn't get why she was so freaked out. The dogs were fine the entire stay. They are non-eventful inside. They let me know when they need out and I clean up the poo straight away. I keep them under good supervision. At the end of the trip, my friend sent me a text saying, "Hey, as you know, the house is quite messy because of the dogs and I'm going to hire a cleaner. Would you mind paying me for that?" I was a bit taken aback. The dogs had 0 accidents inside. Didn't break anything. I asked what she meant and she explained that there was dog hair everywhere. The thing is, they are shedding dogs. I know that. If she'd asked me to vacuum up after them, I would have. But she didn't. I also don't think a deep clean would be necessary. A quick vacuum of the carpets, couch, bed, etc. would be more than enough to remove any trace. I don't know what to do. I didn't ask to stay with her, she offered. I told her about my dogs and she was fine with that. Relevant comments. So let me get this straight. And I say this as an owner of 1 lab but have had to at the same time in the past. A friend allows you to stay with 2 large, shedding dogs last minute and you make effort to vacuum or otherwise contribute to cleaning before you leave. I'd be so embarrassed to leave without cleaning after staying that I'd have paid for the cleaner in a heartbeat. You appear incredibly entitled and disrespectful to your friend in a clear edit. Adding YTA in case the all gets skipped by the bot.